Greetings and welcome to this road trip and building regulations segment where I will take you to the pretty awesome little city of Carmel-By-The-Sea. Located outside of Monterey, California and south of San Francisco, the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea has been described as a Bentley luxury community, and it is one of my favorite California coastal communities. The city of Carmel-By-The-Sea is comprised of white sand beaches, architecturally unique and historic homes, beautiful gardens, and it is home to the historic landmark of the Mission San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo, known as the Carmel Mission. The Carmel Mission is one of the few buildings I will cover in this video, which will include footage of both the inside and outside of this beautiful landmark. And as an added bonus, I will include the beautiful Carmelite Monastery, so stay tuned and trust me when I say you do not want to miss the footage. Since one of the main focuses will be on the historic Carmel Mission, I should mention that there are 21 historic missions in California that were built by the Spaniards in the 1700s. And as I understand, these missions were built to serve as communities where the Spaniards would teach the Native Americans religion, politics, and other ways of living. The Carmel Mission apparently was the second mission to be built in California, 1770, the year after the San Diego Mission, Mission San Diego de Alcala, was built in 1769. If you travel along California's Highway 101, you may have noticed these bells, historically and officially called the Mission Bells. The history of these bells is another story in its own, but apparently a brief research on the history of the Mission Bells tells us that they were originally installed in 1906, and by 1913, 450 bells were installed along both sides of Highway 101 from San Diego to San Francisco, and historically, the Mission Bells served a purpose which was to link the 21 California missions, from the San Diego Mission to the San Francisco Mission. On the way to the Carmel Mission, I decided to take the long scenic route of Ocean Avenue off of Highway 1. And along this residential area, you start entering the retail center that is enjoyed by many tourists and locals throughout the year, but especially during the spring and summer months. The end of Ocean Avenue will then abut to a parking area where one can enjoy the beauty of this beach. And for all you canine lovers, be happy to know that the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea is one of the most dog-friendliest communities around, which makes Mr. Chip Douglas quite the happy doggo. There are other parking areas which can also take you to other portions of the beach that may not be too busy, like this area along Scenic Road, which is less than 2 miles of stunning views. I will leave the rest to a travel channel as I take you now to the beautiful Carmel Mission. During the visit, the Carmel Mission was undergoing alterations which made some areas inaccessible. However, I was able to see some of the construction taking place, and having worked on and inspected historic buildings, I can certainly appreciate the meticulousness that goes into working on a project such as this. In terms of the applicability of building codes to historic buildings and structures, alterations to such projects are generally required to conform only to the provisions of the California Historical Building Code, and they are merely required to conform to other parts of the codes only to the extent that the historical significance or character-defining features are not threatened. However, in order for buildings and structures to take advantage of the alternative standards in the Historical Building Code, such buildings and structures must be formally deemed a qualified historical building or property by the state, local, or federal jurisdiction. So essentially, cities have the authority to deem buildings and properties qualified historical, and the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea has 277 historic objects and buildings in its inventory. I would imagine the Carmel mission would have been quite easily deemed qualified historical by the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea due to its significance. However, the mission was deemed a State of California historical landmark. Ultimately, the difference between being deemed qualified historical from the state versus the local government is funding it may receive to include tax incentives, or clout, as some may call it. So let us check out the awesome architecture of this mission. Now, historically, all missions reflected Gothic, Moorish, and Romanesque architectural styles, the various cultural influences brought by the Spanish. Now, this very important sign you see here is required at unreinforced masonry buildings in high seismic zones. The brief background: in December 22, 2003, Jennifer Lynn Myrick and her friend Marilyn Safuto were killed by falling debris while fleeing a building in Paso Robles, California during the San Simeon earthquake, and as a result, Assembly Bill 2533 was passed, which requires property owners with unreinforced masonry buildings located in high seismic zones to post in a conspicuous place at the entrance of the building a sign with this following message. I applaud this establishment and the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea for assuring this notice is posted for people to be aware. Touring Carmel-By-The-Sea, you will notice unique architectural designs, and one of the most captivating is the Tudor. Tudor designs are characterized by their steep roofs, creative chimneys, and trim work, amongst other features. Tudor-style homes were inspired by timber frame cottages built 400 to 500 years ago during the Tudor dynasty in England. There is an assortment of Tudor-style homes, and in Carmel-By-The-Sea you will see Tudor revivals as well as storybook homes, and one of my favorite, the Fairy Tale House, which has this awesome gingerbread-style roof. Check it out. During the trip, I also paid a visit to this intriguing place with quite the history, the Paul Flanders Mansion, which is registered as historic significance with the city as well as the National Register of Historic Places. This historic mansion was designed in 1924 in an English cottage substyle of the Tudor Revival by prominent San Francisco architect Henry Higby Gutterson. The Flanders Mansion is situated on nearly 2 acres of hillside overlooking the Carmel Mission to the southwest. This structure was built with a cavity-walled building system of precast interlocking concrete blocks that were locally produced by the Carmel Thermalite Company, advertised as fireproof, waterproof, and practically everlasting. The steeply pitched intersecting gable roofs are capped with ceramic tiles, irregularly laid and fired in a russet color. Pretty awesome, huh? Allegedly, this mansion was the first, if not the earliest, architect-designed residences in Carmel-By-The-Sea, and currently the only known example of architect Gutterson's work in the region. This English cottage design was one of the first in Carmel-By-The-Sea, and this property is now part of the city's Mission Trails Park since its acquisition in 1972, with its grounds maintained by the city forester and staff. Shortly after departing Carmel-By-The-Sea and less than 5 miles south, I toured the Carmelite Monastery, which keeps with the historic theme of this video. I must say that the monastery is quite zenfully quiescent. This monastery was built in the early 1900s and is in the unincorporated lands of Carmel. Picture perfect is this place with beautiful landscape. This concludes my narrating. I will now leave you with sights and sounds of this beautiful monastery and the city of Carmel-By-The-Sea. Enjoy the video and stay awesome, everyone.